Hi everybody, this is Bewitched Spirit from Bewitched Adventures, and I just wanted to go ahead and start off my adventure here on YouTube with a tag from Azura DragonFaether. It is the What's Your Craft tag, and since I just came out of the Broom Closet about 14 days ago, I just wanted to go ahead and start with this. I thought it would be a great introduction to go ahead and answer some questions. The first one is, when and how did you know you were a witch? Well, prior to actually learning I was a witch, I used to make this thing I called feel better medicine, and it used to be dandelions and grass that I would just crush up and put on my minor injuries, like cat scratch kind of thing. You know, a little kid falls and, you know, scrapes their knee, gets a strawberry, you know, that sort of thing. And I didn't know it then, but of course that is a form of wisdom. It was this innate intuition, I guess. It was just, you know, kind of bubbled up, and I kind of just knew as a kid. And then when I was 12 years old, I lived next to a pagan. I'm not sure if she was Wiccan or just a witch, but she had tarot cards, she had crystals all over her apartment. It was fantastic. And from there I really kind of just opened up, and I was like, yes, this is me. This is the life that I want to live, as opposed to the Christian life that I was born into, which didn't really flow with me. And that's okay, because I'll do me, you do you. That's great. The second question is, how long have you been practicing? So I have been actively practicing since I was 12 years old. It was a little difficult because, like I said, my parents were Christian, and so I couldn't do it in their house. There was one incident where I brought home just a book on the topic of tarot, no actual tarot cards, and it was threatened that if I ever brought anything like that into their house again, that it would be burned and I would have to replace the book. Let's see, the next question is, what kind of witch are you? I am an eclectic solo practitioner. I do live in the desert, so I tend to be a little more desert minded when it comes to the type of magic I do. I really, really revere the rain, because it is so rare here in Phoenix to get rain. If we get it just a few times a year, and it's nothing like the rainstorms like when I was living back in Indiana. And of course we don't get snow either, so when that happens, and that's an even rarer occurrence, that's also pretty amazing and pretty powerful here. What path or tradition do you follow? I don't really follow a path or tradition specifically. I kind of, like I said, I'm eclectic, so I take a little bit from different paths and traditions, and I incorporate them into my life and my practice. I am an omnist, which basically means that I believe that everybody's religion is correct in some way, and that does translate down to individual paths. I don't particularly feel that there is really this terrible, like a terrible religion, like Satanists, for example, which, by the way, if you didn't know, Satanists don't worship Satan. You should go ahead and look a little further into that. It is mostly about self-empowerment, which is actually kind of beautiful, but not what I practice. And no, so the only paths that I wouldn't practice is anything involving sacrifice or hurting other people. I don't particularly want to feed off of other people's misery, so to speak, and I don't want to be part of life where it is involving death. I embrace death, but I don't want to be the cause of it. So sacrificing animals, sacrificing people, eating babies. Not for me, guys. Sorry. Once again, most witches, we don't do that. I'm sure there are some, and I'll just not touch on that because that's kind of a hot topic, eating babies and stuff. And I haven't really heard of anything like that happening. And I don't really think that that happens, but you know, it could, and I wouldn't want anything to do with that personally, but to each their own. Let's see. Is your craft devotional or secular? And how do you incorporate your faith into your craft if you do? So, faith is a tough one for me. Sometimes I will pray. I do work with gods and goddesses, but the foundation of my personal beliefs is that we are all divine, that we are all part of the divine, and that the gods and goddesses that people worship around the world are just manifestations of that bigger divine. So, and that would mean that Jesus and the Abrahamic God and the Hindu gods and the Celtic gods, the Egyptian gods, the Greek gods, they're all just different faces of the same coin. And so I revere them all, and I will pray to them as I need, whatever face of the divine is calling to me at that moment. I do particularly follow, let's see, I particularly fall in line with Celtic and Hindu gods the most. Sometimes the Norse deities, and occasionally the Egyptian. I also believe firmly that ancestors are still around with us, and so I believe that they should also be just part of our core values in our lives. But then again, that's for me, and if that's something you believe, that's great, but not everybody does. I do know people will pray to their past ancestors, and just ask them to be with them, and you know, that kind of thing. So that is a kind of form of what I believe in doing. My husband and his family are Hispanic, so I have done a little bit of ancestor like research on their area, like what they do during Dia de los Muertos, and I do believe we are planning on doing a shrine for our ancestors this year. We did have a couple grandparents that have passed away, and for my husband and I, that'll be some of the first people that we've like really lost in our lives. The last time I lost somebody was when I was 7 or 8 years old, and that's when my grandfather passed away, and we moved out here to Arizona, possibly as a result of his passing. I'm not entirely positive of that. And are you a closeted witch or in the open? If so, how do your friends and family feel about your path? I just came out of the closet on, I want to say the 13th, as being a witch. Yeah, I think it was the 13th. Most of my friends and family took it really well. A lot of my friends already knew because I grew up with them, or I went to the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, and I don't know, my dad used to call it hippie school, so I had a lot of like-minded individuals, plus in high school I did find pagan friends that I was able to grow with, learn with, occasionally cast with, and that was fantastic. So I've had, like, my friends, I really, that's not something I worry about with my friends. Now my family, I had a brother be like, I would have never guessed. And I'm sitting here thinking, how did you never guess? Like, I don't think it was a surprise to stepfather number 1. Stepfather number 2, I think he thought I was personally kind of blaming him or something for things that happened in my past that may have pushed me towards becoming a witch. But like I mentioned earlier, I really have been drawn to this path since very young in my life, since before he was even a part of it. So it's definitely nothing he did. There were definitely some hardships in the home, but it was never, you know, his fault. But I think he took it the hardest, and I'm still kind of waiting for the come back to Jesus conversation. But I've really never been with Jesus, never really had a solid relationship with him or God, and so I don't really think there's anything to go back to. Plus, it's never really found me in the heart, and witchcraft has. Am I solitary or part of a coven? I am primarily solitary. I do have a roommate who is also pagan. I have a friend who is pagan, and occasionally I will do stuff with them. There is a local circle here in Phoenix that I have gone to, but I've only once or twice, and I haven't in years. So primarily I'm just a solo practitioner, but occasionally I will do things with other people when I feel like it, when it calls to me, basically. Let's see. What is something you wish someone had told you, or something you wish you knew when you first started? Something I wish someone had told me. I wish somebody had, you know, prompted me to meditate more, actually. And the reason being is meditation is a huge part of what you need. Like, it's the way that we focus our energy and put it out there in the universe and call it back to us. And meditation comes in a variety of forms. A lot of people think that it is just clearing your mind and stopping all your thoughts, and that's not true at all. That is one type of meditation, and there are many different other types of meditation, and I have been thinking about doing a video. In fact, I'm also starting a blog called Bewitched Adventures, and if you would like to go ahead and follow me over there, it is going to be bewitchedadventures.com, and it will be hosted over on Blogger. I also am starting this channel here, so go ahead and like and subscribe and all that amazingness if you'd like, and you can expect more videos from me in the future. But back to the question here, yeah, I wish somebody had told me to meditate more often and practice more of that, and I wish that I knew it was more, that you could approach it in more ways than just trying to clear your mind, because that seems to be the one that is projected a lot more. People are like, oh, clear your mind. But there's also, you know, guided meditation and walking meditation, and you know, you can focus your attention on a specific object and just let yourself feel. And so there's a lot of different types of meditation, and I think meditation and visualization and affirmation are going to be some of your biggest tools, and I wish people had told me that from the beginning, because I think that would have helped me out a lot. What resources was the most valuable for your beginning practice, and what about now? Well, let's see. I did a lot of winging it, and the internet was a great tool, because when I grew up as the internet was building. I was born in 1991, so it was still kind of new, and, you know, we had AOL, and, you know, you've got mail, you know, all that kind of stuff, and my mother was very restrictive about computer use, but as soon as I got to the point where I was in high school, I really had access to the public library. I had access to the school library, and that was amazing. Because the school was so far away, it was expected that I was going to be gone a while trying to get home and back. I mean, it wasn't that far away. It was like, a mile away, but the point is I had time, I had resources available to me that I didn't have in the past. And so for me, the biggest one was the internet, but there was also this store called A Magical Moon, and that was not too far from where I grew up. And the one of the two owners, and I don't remember the other one's name, and I do apologize if you guys end up finding this, but her name was Heather, and she was an amazing woman, and she helped guide me, and she actually helped me find this one. Oh, it's backwards. Oh, maybe I'll be able to turn that around in editing. But it's the Teen Spell Book, and it is by Jamie Wood, and I still go back and reference this sometimes. I also have Teen Witch by Silver Ravenwolf, and the Grimoire for the Apprentice Wizard and its companion book, which are both signed, which was kind of great, and so I kind of kept those protected and stuff, and that was fantastic. I have a lot of books. In fact, you guys are actually sitting on part of my altar. It's extensive, I know. I have just stuff everywhere, and then this is the other part. Anyways, so I have quite the collection of stuff, and I've got my own little space set aside here. Half my office is my little sacred space, my witchcraft space, and let's see, next. What about now? So what is my most valuable resource now? I'd say YouTube. Books, I still turn to books. I have a lot of friends. YouTube is fantastic, but if I'm being more realistic, my intuition is my biggest resource, because it doesn't matter what anybody else says. It just doesn't. If I want to, make the flying spaghetti monster a part of my practice, I'm going to make the flying spaghetti monster a part of my practice. But I will reference out to books and websites and YouTube channels, and that's actually how I found Azura. I was looking for inspiration on what to do to start my channel, and I stumbled across her along with the White Witch Parlor and a few other places, but those were the two big ones. I am following both Jenna over at the White Witch Parlor and Azura here, and they are both fantastic. I love watching their videos, but no, really though, intuition. Go with your gut when in doubt. Like, that's huge, I think. If it doesn't feel right to you, then it's probably not meant for you. Don't do it. Go with your gut. Next, what was your first spell, and was it successful? I don't know what my first spell was. I've done so many spells. I don't know. You guys, I don't know. I've done so many. I know I started with candle magic, candle magic and crystal magic, which I feel are great places for new individuals to the craft to go ahead and start, because candles really inexpensive. Most crystals are inexpensive, although you do have to watch out because some crystals are dyed or altogether fake. So go ahead and do your research prior to buying them. Chances are, if they're this super vibrant color, it's been dyed. And you got to be careful with quartz, because sometimes quartz is actually glass, and it's not that much of a price difference to get real clear quartz. So definitely watch your source. You could have tons of quartz in your house right now and it could just all be glass. What do you do when you feel out of touch with your craft? When I feel out of touch with my craft, I'm usually depressed. That's usually what's happening. Usually I'm going through a bout of depression, and I do suffer from bipolar depression. So when that happens, I sometimes will feel very out of touch with myself, with my craft, and with the world. And thankfully there's therapy and medicine for that. So I do have ways of dealing with that and bringing myself right back. But oftentimes I will just find a place to sit down and relax and try to do my best to get out of that rut. Sometimes I will do herbals and carry crystals around, do readings, all kinds of stuff in an attempt to, but oftentimes when I'm in that kind of a mind frame, you know, it's just spirals and spirals, and because I'm putting negativity out there, I just keep getting negativity back, and until I manage to break that cycle, there's, you know, it's hard. It's just one of those things, but I deal with it, and well, that's that. Let's see. Have you ever doubted your faith or ability? Yeah, at times, you know, when you are told by various people, be it the media or your family or things like that, that you're going to hell, yeah, that definitely makes you doubt yourself sometimes. And that's unfortunate because, you know, witchcraft is very nature-centric. It's very beautiful, and I don't think people should, you know, have to doubt themselves because somebody else is getting up in your business and trying to save your soul. And I'm sorry, but my soul doesn't need saving, and get the hell out of my business. Again, you do you, I'll do me. That's all we need to know there. But yeah, there are times when I have doubted my faith or my ability. Okay, this does not address the faith, but the ability part, yes, I have doubted my ability in the past. And it's because sometimes, you know, we got all this media and stuff, and, you know, witchcraft is all over the media, and we're very accepting of it in our pop culture. And it's also very, for the most part, unrealistic in our pop culture. And you see this instant manifestation, and that's not usually the case. Usually, if you do something, you have to wait a while to see what the outcome is going to be. You are putting your energy out into the universe. Well, it doesn't just happen. It takes time for it to get around in the universe and then come back to you, and you can see the results that way. Let's see, what is your biggest pet peeve in the magical community? The same thing as with everybody else's religion. Everybody feels that they need to be like, I'm right, you're wrong. And no. Everybody, you know, what's right for you is not right for somebody else. And quite frankly, you need to get your head out of your, and, you know, just get on with your own life, get out of other people's business, and probably meditate on why it is you feel the need to control somebody else's faith. What is it in your life that is so terrible that you need to reach out and control somebody else's life. And that's kind of how I feel about that, and that is probably my biggest pet peeve. There can be a lot of infighting in the community as to which path of, like, Wicca, for example, is or isn't correct, who was established first. And you'll find interviews on YouTube that are just like, people like, oh yeah, well, my way was established first. And while they don't say it, sometimes it comes off as that makes it better. And no way is better for everyone. It might be better for you, but it might not be best for me. And I think that people need to learn to respect that. And so I think that's my biggest pet peeve. My biggest spell disaster. Okay. My biggest spell disaster would have been, I had several candles lit and it was kind of just like above my head level, and the shelf that they were sitting on kind of just fell, and there was wax and it was hot, and that was kind of hurt. I took that as a sign that that spell was not meant to be at that moment, and so we moved on from that one. What are my views on black magic? Oh, okay. Like I said earlier, I don't really think that there is particular right or wrong path. So this kind of goes along with that. Magic in and of itself is a neutral force. It's like saying, is a gun inherently evil? Is a rock inherently evil? Is a knife inherently evil? The answer is no. It's the person that's using the tool that you have to consider being good or evil. Magic in and of itself, it's just this neutral force. It's a rock on the ground. It's the gun. It's the knife. It is all in how it is used. If somebody wants to turn around and curse somebody, yeah, I would consider that black magic. There are some magic that's kind of along, the middle lines, like love magic, and people will talk about prosperity magic kind of being right there as well, because if you are taking prosperity into yourself, it has to come from somewhere. So if you are receiving, somebody else is losing, and so it's got to come from somewhere, and so that has to be considered in a lot of things as well. And I think that as far as white magic and black magic go, it's all about intention, and it has to do with the person utilizing it, and it's just best to consider the balance of things. And I'm a firm believer that what you put out there comes back. So if you're gonna curse somebody, expect some badness to come back your way, and whether you believe that or not is up to you, but that's what I believe. And let's see, next, is witchcraft an everyday thing, or is it only for special occasions? No. Witchcraft is not just for special occasions. You want magic to be in every part of your life. Big rituals definitely, save for the Sabbats, like maybe the Esbats as well. But for me, it's an everyday thing, whether it's just me visualizing and affirming, meditating. It's definitely part of my life. And I know some witches don't make it a part of their everyday life, and that's okay. For me, it is. It's something I live. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of being. It's not just something I can turn on and turn off as I want. Next, do you meditate? I try. And I don't put, and when I say I try to meditate, I do try to clear my mind. Specifically that form of meditation I do struggle with. Visualization and walking meditation, just, going ahead and focusing my mind and giving myself a little bit of peace. I don't have trouble with that really, and I do that on a daily basis. I don't particularly sit down at my altar. I don't, necessarily find a quiet place. I will just do it at my desk at work. I will do it anywhere, and except when I'm driving. I try not to do that when I'm driving because that's kind of dangerous. But I definitely have spaced out before. Let's see. Do you practice divination? If so, what techniques? Not really, actually. I do have tarot cards and oracle cards and runes. I have a couple different types of runes, actually. I do have a small crystal ball, but I don't think I would use it for gazing. So I don't practice divination per se. I do occasionally utilize divination, but I don't make it a part of my regular practice. Now, I am, however, psychic, and this is one of those things that just makes it's just like, these are one of the ways you just know you're a witch. You know it, because it's just like, what else could it be? But I have a few ways. Number one, I am incredibly empathic. It is hard for me to be anywhere near large groups of people for long periods of time. It is incredibly draining for me because I kind of get hit with everybody else's emotions, and I don't really know what I'm feeling versus what other people are feeling, and that can be a challenge sometimes. And so I do prefer to, most of the time, spend time with smaller groups of people. And to that, I also can be somewhat telepathic as well, and this is knowing what people are thinking before they say it, or even if they don't say it, which can be both a boon and and kind of just, a curse at some points, just because it's hard knowing what other people are thinking about you sometimes, and that kind of has shut me down in the past and kind of caused some emotional problems, because I, up until this last year or so, have had a lot of problems with how I allowed other people's judgments of me to rule my life, and I don't really let that happen anymore, which has been very freeing for me. And I think the big thing is that I have a job that if for some reason something were to happen, I know that I could 100% support myself and live on my own and recover from the problem. Whereas before I was kind of reliant on others, at least in part, to survive. And so, it's been hard, and it's something that I've had to work on. It's something that I've struggled with for a very long time. I just want everybody to be happy, and everybody to, it doesn't work that way, and that's been a struggle for me. Let's see, moon phases, planetary correspondences, days of the week, hour, irrelevant, or key. Actually, I have to say that I agree with Azura on this one. She mentioned that there are controllables, and those controllables, and what I mean by that is human invention. And those would be the days of the week, the time, those things I don't think particularly matter, just because they are man-made concepts. And man-made concepts, that in 100 years that could change. The moon phases and planetary correspondences, those are things that are really out of our control. Those occur with or without our perception of them. Definitely our perception of them, it matters, but they happen regardless. and days of the week and time, I kind of think those are probably just more irrelevant. But if they do work for you, and that's something you want to utilize in your craft, if that, you know, kind of makes things feel better for you, and do it. You know, definitely observe it if you want. Let's see. Spell language. Do you like it simple? Do you dress it up? Is it poetry? Is it silent? It depends on my mood. I don't believe it has to be any particular thing. I definitely have found that keeping a casting between you and maybe a couple people definitely is good, because then other people can't affect the outcome of it. But if you tell people that you trust and they're like, yeah, you can do this, you know, then that's good, because that's more positivity going out on your behalf. That's people thinking about this positive outcome for you, people that are thinking, hey, they want this thing for you, and so it does kind of help that manifest, I feel. So I do feel that sometimes silent is good in that respect. I will often do silent spells, like just in my head, just manifest, you know, put out that manifestation, and do things that way. Mostly I do things simply. I will dress it up, get a little poetic on some of the sabbats, maybe espits as well, but really not regularly will I do anything like that. I prefer to do things simply. Do you keep a book of shadows or grimoire? I do, but for me, my book of shadows is also my journal, and I don't know how a lot of people do this, but I combine the two, because for me, my life and my magical journey are the same thing, and so I don't separate them. I do put a lot of my, actually I think I have my first one, and this was my first, and I started it in 2006. So I was 15 years old probably, I think. And I have poems and little doodles. Easy doodle. Poems, doodles, let's see, the language of the flowers, candy magic. I don't even know where I found that, but that's awesome to me. I haven't used it really, but and I definitely probably shouldn't, because I'm diabetic, but I think it's kind of awesome that somebody went and, you know, kind of did those correspondences to different flavors of candy. That's cute. I've also come across like stuffed animal magic, which is kind of adorable, and that's wonderful. Anyways, in this grimoire, I wrote my own spells. I have, you know, some of my astrology charts in here. I've got a lot of things in here, so it's just, you know, yes, I do keep one, but it is also my journal, and sometimes journaling saves your butt. I had it save my butt with an old friend that I hope she finds some peace, but we had a falling out, and it was very unfortunate. I did have a circle with her at one point, but it does help to be able to go back and look at things, to be able to pull up your experiences from the past, and especially during those stressful times, it's also very therapeutic on a like psychology level. So that's nice. Let's see. Do you have an altar? Is it dedicated to any specific deity, season, or anything? I do have an altar. I showed it to you guys a little bit ago. It is very large. I don't know if I got a great shot on all of it. I'm sorry, guys. I probably should have just turned the camera around here at the end. If I remember, I will go ahead and show you guys the entire thing again, and hopefully get a little bit of a better shot. Yes, I do know it's not dedicated to any specific deity or season or anything like that. I will occasionally change things as I want so that it meets my needs for that time. But that's about it. I don't feel like I need to have 20. I just have one ginormous one. That seems to work fine for me. Thoughts on the afterlife? I think the afterlife is what you make it. I think that if your soul isn't ready to move on at the time of your death, that you are going to go ahead and find a way to experience that peace or find a lesson. Like, so if you feel that you need to be punished, you're probably going to punish yourself. Whether or not that is the fiery pits of hell or, you know, something completely different, I don't know. That is going to be entirely up to your soul and how that goes. But I do believe eventually we return to the karmic cycle and end up being reborn. And you know, that's kind of my thoughts on the afterlife. I do believe that some spirits dwell for a very, very long time. I do feel that people do punish themselves. I feel that some people will feel that they deserve a breather, that they will create their own heaven or their own hell until it is time for their spirits to come back into the cycle. So ghosts, afterlife, all that kind of stuff. Do you or would you teach and practice witchcraft to your children? Yes, but I think I would, no, I know I would have a very kind of open view on this. I would be like, you know, hey, it's okay if you want to go and practice this other religion, but I definitely think I would teach my children some of the basics, like meditation. It's not necessarily a religious practice. It can be just psychological, and that's wonderful because it can help you relax and help you, you know, bring yourself back to center, and that's wonderful. Do you have a totem animal? Let's see, totem animals, spirit animals, guardian angels, they're all very different things, and that's important for people to note. Yes, I do have some. I work with the Fae myself. I prefer working with the Fae. I do have a hummingbird that likes to follow me around, and its lesson for me has been on silence, less like being silent and more learning to listen kind of silent. So there's that. What are some witch books that have influenced you? I have a lot of books, and a lot of them have influenced me. I'm trying to see if there is one in particular. The ones I mentioned earlier, the teen spell book, the Teen Witch by Silver Ravenwolf, and the Grimoire for the Apprentice Wizard, those all helped me pretty early. Now I don't particularly have one specific one that I will go to. I just go and find information as I need to. Really, my grimoire, my personal grimoire, is the one that I go back to the most, I think. What are, let's see, tools? Handmade only, natural materials. I only need my will. Anything works if I want to use it. I think anything will work. I prefer my stuff to be natural just because that's my preference, and I feel like I don't really want anything that's made of plastic, or I mean, I still have stuff that's made of plastic. I mean, it's just, you know, everywhere in our world here, especially like, you know, in America, I know for sure we have lots of plastic stuff, and plastic really isn't good for the world. But, you know, do I have a magical name? Yes. Publicly, I go by Spirit or Rogue Spirit. Either of those. It's definitely my magical name slash handle here on the internet. I do also have a private magical name that nobody else knows, and only that's for me. That's my name. If anybody knows it, it will be people that are very, very close to me that I trust. And favorite season? My favorite season is fall. I love the colors. I love the holidays. It's wonderful for me. I'd say my second is winter, but I don't want to deal with snow, so I like it here in Phoenix winter. I love looking at everybody else's winter. The snow is beautiful, but I don't want to live in it. My favorite herb, I think dandelion, and I think it's because it's this whimsical flower that grows everywhere. People think it's a weed, but it's actually incredibly medicinal. You can eat it, and you can also make little wishes on it, and you know, that's great for kids, and it's fun, and that's wonderful. My favorite crystal, right now it seems to be a toss-up between quartz and rose quartz, and I don't I don't particularly know which one is more prominent. I have more quartz, certainly. I do feel that quartz is really easy to work with. And let's see, my favorite rune, the Auroch is my favorite rune. It's the rune of strength. I know it has other names, but at least in my books, that's the name that I have seen it under. I like the rune of strength. The rune of strength is kind of awesome. Let's see, my favorite tarot card. I don't know that I particularly have a favorite tarot card. So I'll go ahead and skip that one. If I come up with an answer, I will put it in the description. My favorite symbol or sigil. The symbols, I will say, I like elephants and lotus flowers, and they are important to me because, again, elephants go back on that strength, but they also have wisdom, and elephants are just extremely powerful in that way. They're playful but strong, and I think they're beautiful creatures. And the lotus flower is amazing. So it's a flower that kind of pokes up out of the murky, nasty, muddy area, but when it opens up, it is entirely clean usually, or really dang close to it. So it's beautiful. It comes out of this really kind of dirty environment, but when it blooms, it just shows its purity, and I think that's fabulous. That's all of the questions. If you guys have any additional questions, feel free to let me know. Hopefully this video didn't get too long. I think it may have gotten too long, so I may have to cut it a little bit, which will be fun because I haven't messed with that. But you guys have yourself a wonderful day, and thank you for listening, and go ahead and again like, subscribe, and follow, and all that kind of good stuff, and hopefully some more content will be coming out soon.